Hi, this is Chris Kopak, Assistant Vice President of Facilities Management at the University of Arizona, also APA President. With me today, I have Jenna Elmer, our Assistant Director of Human Resources at the Facilities Management Department at the University of Arizona. Jen is also on the Rocky Mountain Association Board, taking over as Professional Development. And today we're going to be talking about setting up a Facilities Management Apprenticeship Program for seamless succession planning. As our industry is losing over 10,000 baby boomers, 10,000 per day for the next 10 years, one of the largest items that we're dealing with on our campuses, deferred maintenance is one, receiving the funds, but then having a very successful succession plan for all our skilled trades. So we're going to be covering an award-winning program. We're proud at the University of Arizona to share that with you. Federally approved and also nationally recognized. And so with that, I also want to mention that APA has been able to secure CEUs for all our webinars that you attend. So if you contact APA's main office, Billy Zeddy can go ahead and help you coordinate getting the proper CEUs as you're looking at getting the proper CEUs for your EFP and CEFP recertifications. As we've done in the past, if you have questions, please go ahead and send those to me electronically. We'll be taking questions last 10 to 15 minutes of the presentation. And this is an ongoing series of giving back to our members. One of the key items our members mention in a survey is they want to have useful information that they can take back to their universities, colleges, and K through 12 schools to make their operation more effective and more efficient. And this is just a continuation of the series. Usually the last Thursday of each month, we've had to change it because of some recent APA meetings that took place over this past weekend. Our next webinar will be January 25th. More to that, but let's get into this. Jenna, thank you very much for joining us. Setting up a facilities management apprenticeship program for seamless succession planning. Why is that important, Jenna?
Well, we are looking at nationally a real crisis in our workforce, specifically within the construction trades. Here in a minute, we'll talk about some of those statistics. But first, why don't we tell them what we've done over our 2 apprenticeship classes. We started our apprenticeship program here at the University of Arizona in 2013. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Chris?
I will. So we looked at the apprenticeship program, and quite honestly, years ago, there was a effort for apprenticeship program that wasn't as successful. And when I say that, at that time, the program did not have the proper testing in place. When students graduated from the program, they ended up leaving the organization, going to other companies in the local area or beyond. And so we did a very deep dive to say what would be a successful apprenticeship program. We reached out to universities throughout the country and Canada. We looked to see where there were successful programs. The University of Regina, we talked to Emmett Boyle and Dave Button. They've had a program there. University of Virginia has had a program there now for decades, literally decades, that has been very successful. And we said, let's make sure we have a very solid program. We looked at our staffing as a whole, so what's driving this? As you'll see in future slides here, we looked at our staffing of our skilled trades, our electricians, our HVAC, our control staff, our plant operators. We needed to make sure we pass that baton seamlessly, passing along that institutional knowledge. And we saw that in some cases, some of our shops were losing 80 to 85% of their staff over the next 10 years. Right off the bat, we said we were going to start a program in 2013. It consisted of 4 plumbers, 4 electricians, 4 HVAC staff, and on a monthly basis, we were meeting with each one of these apprentice, now journeymen, to make sure that the program is very successful. We've also just recently graduated that class. You'll see some slides here of the graduation celebration. And we started a new class just recently this past August. We just met with them actually 2 days ago, seeing how things are going as we're mentoring and coaching them. In that class, we have 2 electricians, 3 HVAC mechanical, and 2 HVAC control staff. As we all are finding quality control staff is getting more and more difficult. In addition, we're looking at developing our plant operators, those who are running our boilers, turbines, chillers. We like to speak of it as the economics of our utility management system. How can we be as efficient as possible with a large financial ticket that our facilities management department is stewards of? In cases at the university, just $34 million alone, just paying the local bills of gas, electricity, and water. We need to make sure we have staff who understand how to handle that. Jenna, the case for apprenticeship programs, can you review that?
Sure. So making the decision to start an apprenticeship program is a big investment. Like Chris said, it's an investment of time, it's an investment of internal resources, and it's an investment of your money. So I really think that the first look that you need to do for your institution is why. Why do you want to create this new apprenticeship program? And I think that all of the details are there. There is a national trend right now when we're looking at the workforce. You can see on the slide, between 2014 and 2022, the construction sector growth projections are going up 13%. At the same time, we're losing our baby boomers. So 20% of our workforce will be walking out the door and into a wonderful retirement because they can.
You know, when we think about that, and we really just pause for a second, that large amount of folks who are leaving our institutions, and a lot of our universities and colleges and K through 12, we have staff who are there for 20, 30, and in some cases 40 years. And that's a huge amount of institutional knowledge that we're losing. And so the challenge that we've had at the University of Arizona and quite frankly, universities throughout the country in Canada and Mexico is how do we make sure we shrink that knowledge transfer, that we have solid mentoring programs, solid programs of being really, really good stewards of our campus infrastructure. Our tunnels that are underground, 6.5 miles of tunnels at the University of Arizona that hold our steam and chill water. Our plants, as we talked about, the economics of our utility plants. When we look at our plumbers and all the diverse mechanical systems that they need to work at in research universities and hospitals and colleges, universities have museums. The humidity has to be spot on at 55.5%, not 56, not 54. We need to have staff who understand that. Our electrical grids on campus, medium voltage, high voltage. And so when you have an electrical system, substations on campus, and you have staff who understand how to work that, we need to make sure we have the continuity of operation within our staff. And so the facilities management plays a key role in that. And our staff, and in this case, apprenticeship program, is a very successful tool. And that's what we want to give back to our members. Jenna?
So when we look at our workforce, we have a 13% growth in our industry. We have 20% of our workforce leaving. Additionally, we don't have as many people coming into the workforce from our younger generations. So statistically, 19 to 25-year-olds entering the trades are going down. In 2006, 18% of that age bracket was entering construction trades. By 2013, it was 13%, and it continues to decline. Some of the reasons for that.
And Jen, if I can just jump in there, I know we said 20%, and you'll see throughout the presentation, Jen and I are going to be bouncing back and forth. But 20%, that's the overall national. But in our cases, as we said, there is shops that are losing over 80%. 80% of the staff are leaving, and we're currently just at the beginning of that. We're going to a retirement party, it seems like on a monthly basis, 1, 2, or 3 of our staff on a routine basis. The 80% of our carpenters, painters. We'll also talk today not only about a formal apprenticeship program, but some creative ideas that we're looking at in terms of leadership development, rotational leadership development, and also opportunities for our custodial grounds and others to move on up in the organization, going into trade positions that then they get an informal training into our carpenter shop and also our paint shop and some other areas.
So the problem that we're seeing is an attrition problem, the retirement that Chris is talking about. And then we also have a perception problem as people are entering the workforce. What we know from research is that 1/3 of our construction craft workers are over 50. We know that 66% of 12 to 18-year-olds aren't interested in construction careers. And 44% of those 16 or 12 to 18-year-olds parents are also not supportive of moving their kids into a construction trade. So we really have a perception problem that we're battling.
And so when we look at the perception problem, one item that we looked at up front, not everybody's going to be going to a four-year college, but when you do start talking about apprenticeship programs, we reached out to the local high schools. We had a session with over 30 high school educators. We brought them out to campus. We looked at their vocational programs, and I know in a lot of places the vocational schools are going away. But here in Tucson, Arizona, we still have some. We have one of our local high schools. They go ahead and teach the students basically how to build a house from ground up, with the masonry work, the plumbing, and the electrical. We asked them some of their needs. We looked at our target market, and then it was also a big marketing, getting the information out to our local high school educators so they could share that with the students who may be freshmen. They may not go the traditional route, but then they would love to do a apprenticeship program as possibly their grandfather or father were involved in at one time. And we'll talk about that further as we looked at bringing in several staff who actually had a father or uncle who worked here.
Mm-hmm. What we're facing, we're calling it nationally, the skills gap. We have 7.8 million people who are unemployed as of the date on there, 7/8/2016. 5.8 million jobs remain unfilled. So there are jobs out there. We know this because we have the openings, right? And the workforce is there. What we have to do is create a pipeline to train the workforce so that they're qualified to fill our openings. And how you do that is through apprenticeship programs. We see it. We see it when we post jobs right now. 5 years ago, if I posted a plumber job, we would get a lot of qualified applicants. A lot of our qualified applicants are retiring out of the workforce, and the younger generation isn't interested. But the exciting thing is we can get them interested. We have a unique opportunity because we work for higher ed institutions. So we get to get them into the University of Arizona. We get to get them into your universities as students and workers and paint a really bright picture of a great career for them through a good qualified apprenticeship program. So it's pretty exciting.
And Jen, I'll tell you, to elaborate on that point further, that's a key point, the marketing of what we currently have. Sometimes folks will say, well, our universities, we're not paying a large amount, that we can't attract quality workers. We can look at several ways in terms of market analysis, market salary reviews, but take advantage of what we do have, which is just a huge strength of our local universities, colleges, and also community colleges, and attracting. There's a number of folks within the areas, they want to work at a university system. It's stable. Overall, the university buildings are going to be there. Even with the online training now, what we're finding is there's a sense of purpose. Students want to have a place that they can call home, universities, colleges. And then when they have an opportunity to come here, it's a great marketing tool.
We're going to jump into talking about the benefits of an apprenticeship program, but I want to focus on this picture here. That is one of our employees, Mr. Parker, who really embraced teaching, the role of teaching and being a mentor. We've put him on several projects with, his projects were actually with University of Arizona students, teaching them how to weld. And I don't know who found it more rewarding, the students learning how to weld or Mr. Parker being able to really pass his skill on. Both really enjoyed the process. So,
well, I'll tell you too, Jenna, in terms of succession planning, one thing that we talk about routinely is no longer is it that we have the information and we keep it to ourselves. For organizations to be successful, they have to open up and share the information. And so it's critical in establishing a very successful apprenticeship program. You want to make sure that the students are partnered with the right employees so the transfer of knowledge can take place. True to the theme of harnessing and transferring knowledge is just that. We meet routinely on a monthly basis with every apprentice to make sure the school's going well, and also the mentorship is turning out very well too.
And just another exciting look at this picture. What this did for this employee, it opened up a new career option for him that I think he hadn't been looking at. So one of the benefits for him is he started going into more of a leadership role after taking on mentees. He has started going to APA's Institute, and he is in our current program, a rotational leadership program, where he's moving through different shops in a leadership role. And that was all opened up to him by starting out as a mentor and realizing, hey, not only am I good at this, but I really enjoy doing it. So benefits of an apprenticeship program. For your existing employees, for the employees coming in, opens minds and doors to high-demand careers. It gives you great job training with highly qualified individuals. And here within our institution, like Chris was saying, we have a lot of very specific needs and very, one time in 10 years, will you need to go down into that mechanical closet, but you have to be able to transition that knowledge. And training them specifically to our facilities is critical. And what a gift it is for the mentor to share and the mentee to learn. They get to earn a salary while learning. So this is a full-time paid job with incremental salary pay increases as they go. And in our case, and in some cases, the new apprentices receive schooling at greatly reduced tuition.
What we've seen when we look at targeting a future apprentice, we really looked at our facilities management staff as a whole to start off with, is giving our current employees opportunities in moving into an apprenticeship program, possibly their son or daughters, getting the word out. And so the planning on the apprenticeship program literally took a good 2 years to make sure it was very solid. We want to make sure the foundation was very successful. As I mentioned, there was a lot of research that was done, reaching out through colleges, universities throughout the country and in Canada that have had very successful apprenticeship programs. We wanted to model after those, make sure the program was well. We used it as a great marketing tool for our current staff that they then could get the word out to their children. Out of our initial 12, we had 152 applicants. After screening, which we'll go over a very detailed Gantt chart of different tasks that took place, we narrowed that list down to 12 after the testing, and half of or a quarter of those were actually employees, either a son or a nephew, who were brought into the program. So the word of mouth got out very positive, and our employees viewed it as very positive. The plan was to do an apprenticeship program every other year. We've rotated that into every 4 years. So, Jenna?
The benefits for the employer, we've talked about, it addresses the critical workforce shortages. We get to train our workforce to our specific needs and with our specific tools. We get to transfer the knowledge from one generation to the next and achieve bottom line benefits. In both the mentor and the mentee and the leadership apprenticeship committee, we definitely saw increased employee engagement. At one point, a whole team came together and gave one of our apprentices a really difficult problem with one of the building controls. And they allowed the apprentice the time to do the research, and he was able to come up with a solution that the whole team could take pride in, because the mentors realized we got him to the point that he could make the decision and make the changes that needed to be implemented to make improvements in the building. So it's very exciting. It increases our ability to recruit, and we've had great retention within the program.
And that goes when we step back just at the very beginning of the program and the actual analysis, looking at a high level over a 10-year period of what shops will be losing, making sure we're targeting those who possibly could retire. We have a point system here. At so many points, you're getting your full retirement benefits. We targeted that amount and then saying what shops we're going to be losing. HVAC is just huge, along with the plumbing shop. And then we looked and established the program after that.
So what we wanted to talk with you or review with you today was kind of the steps that we took during the formatting stages back in 2012 and 2013, and then where you can go from there. So we're going to cover succession planning, how to identify the need at your institution, how to articulate the problem to the stakeholders that you need to articulate the problem to, and then the solution, what your key milestones should be, who those critical alliances need to be made with, project planning, kind of a roadmap for success, and then some implementation ideas. So when we did our research in identifying the need, what we looked at were, do our turnover rates match those statistics that I shared with you at the beginning? And like Chris mentioned, we were way ahead of the game in terms of how many people we could lose potentially over the next 10 years. Initially, when we looked at it, like Chris was saying, we had shops that were going to lose 80% over the course of 10 years, at a time when we were having a difficult time recruiting. Some of our postings were staying open for a year without a good pool of candidates to apply. HVAC controls, building automation. We were having a hard time with plumbing and electrical. So that's where we really looked and said, okay, here's the need. We're going to lose X amount of people, and we aren't able to recruit them. So we need to grow our own. We looked at our estimated retirements, what our growth areas were. So to us, that was what new buildings are coming online. Will we need as many HVAC refrigeration people, or do we need to start growing building automations people? And then how much time will it take to train? So we have programs that aren't through a registered apprenticeship program. It takes a little bit less time, and it doesn't require the level of schooling that some of our other programs do. So we've created kind of an in-house, on-the-job training for both paint and carpenter that's working really well there, based on what that length of time to train and get them up to speed and qualified would be.
Well, and to comment on that further too, and I do apologize if you're picking up some coughing here, like cold. But you know, the fact is, when we looked overall big picture on our individual trades, again, we wanted to harness that knowledge. We were able to give opportunities, and we continue to give opportunities to our custodial staff, our ground staff, informal apprenticeship program for our paint shop. The paint shop will lose over 85% of the staff. We're already losing them now. We're running trades helpers as trades helpers into these shops. Our leaders in those organizations have a heavy history of apprenticeship programs, and so they're using that as grooming the staff and the painters. Carpenters, we're doing the same with trades helpers there over a 4 to 5 year window. Although we have control staff right now who are running through the apprenticeship program, we are also looking at staff technicians, electronic technicians. We'll talk further about partnering with a local community college, and even some of the questions that we're getting, that the universities may be too small to establish an apprenticeship program. Hopefully when you review our Gantt chart, and these slides will be presented as we always do on our APA webpage, and then you can follow back up with us too if you have a question. We've had a number of times at these webinars, we'll have folks who will give us a call, and we'll just schedule time to chat and go over items in detail. But whether you're small or whether you're large, there's creative ways you can do with an informal or a formal apprenticeship program, and we're doing both. And Jenna also talked about our rotational leadership development, and we'll talk further about that toward the Q&As.
So what you can see on the screen right now is part of that identifying the need, but communicating in a way that our business people within the university could understand. This has been updated for this year, and we've added categories from previously. So I just kind of want to point out that the Mason line, where we're starting to look at all of our shops, and we realize within that area, within the next 10 years, we're down to 1 employee if we don't start thinking about training in that area. So we're continually, annually refreshing this data, saying where are our needs now and where are our needs in the future? How long does it take to train these people, and when do we need to pull in a training program so that we can make sure that we are lessening that skills gap?
And that's, you bring up a great point, Jenna. Really one of the first items you want to be looking at also is determine your needs, but then you need to make the business case. And that business case will be made to your chief financial officer, your senior vice president of the university, could be the chancellor and president. Because what we're trying to shoot for is continuity of operation. And we're not trying, that's what we want to achieve. And so with all the different unique systems we have, you think of control systems just in the buildings, and with technology now, the computerized building automation systems, it takes a fine skill to understand how to deal with those. Our masons, we've had several conversations recently with our masons. We're losing the majority of our masons in the next 2 years. And we have a very gifted team of masons. And so as we were talking with the head mason, we're saying, all right, how are we going to be addressing that program so we can pass that knowledge along and you can have that mentorship and sharing of the knowledge over the next several years. And so you paint the picture to your chief financial officers, you put in a business sense because there's a financial component. This program is running us approximately $450,000 a year. Now, again, some of the smaller colleges may say, I can't afford that. Well, maybe you're not doing 12. Maybe you're doing a smaller bit. And again, maybe it's more on the informal basis that you're looking at establishing the training programs. But we can't afford not to do the succession planning and the transfer of information within our universities. If the goal is to have an in-house operation, our staff who are in-house, who are here for decades, understand the uniqueness of the delicate systems that we have. And if you think of our deferred maintenance on our campus, as that continues increasing in some cases, we need to make sure folks understand how to deal with those very difficult mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, and we have the knowledge base on that. When we had a meeting recently with our chief financial officer, we had lunch and we had him come over to meet with our apprentice. One of the items one of our apprentices said is, nobody knows our internal systems better than the folks who are working with it, living and working with it on a daily basis. How could we not do an apprenticeship program when you have that knowledge base? And it was just a great statement. Matter of fact, the chief financial officer at that time then said, Chris, I want to go ahead and fund 24 per year for the next 10 years. And we said, well, you know, we'd love to do that, but
the eyes of all of our supervisors got doubled.
They were like, Chris, don't do it. And I say don't do it because we need a nice mix. You need the younger folks who have gone through the apprenticeship program. However, you also need those senior staff members who have decades of experience, and so we share that information.
So after we did a lot of our research into identifying the needs, the why behind setting up an apprenticeship program, we spent some time researching the how. And out of that came our apprenticeship program plan. And this is what we'll talk in a little bit about making your alliances on campus. But this document kind of became our elevator pitch, a six-page maybe elevator pitch on the apprenticeship program to all of our stakeholders. And really we just talked about what's the business need, what does this program look like, what will it take to get there, and how much will it cost. And we met with a lot of people talking about this program plan to get them on board.
And you know, it's a key point. We talk about the foundation building. We went through 3 chief financial officers during this apprenticeship program. And during this program, we had to resell the concept to each person. Critical. Why are we investing hundreds of thousands of dollars? It was a 50-50. My facilities management, we've come up with 50%. Central administration has come up with 50%. And we had to resell it each time. And it was critical, too, as we're selling it, we're taking key alliances and taking them through our infrastructure on campus. We're taking them through our tunnels. We're taking them into our utility plants. And sometimes for the first time ever, that they're dealing with dollars on a routine basis, but in some cases they may not know the total operation. So they've had opportunity to go out into the field, go into the buildings, go behind the mechanical rooms, into the utility tunnels and plants, and all of a sudden when they see a boiler and a chiller that's going to run $1 million to replace, and maybe there's a budget line that's put aside in case there's catastrophic failure, but then it takes key technicians to go ahead and understand how to operate those. We go into the plants where there's the control control panels, and we have those red lines that you don't want to exceed, otherwise you're going to be paying millions of dollars in additional charges. Again, that utility economics of the utility management systems. And when the accounting folks can see how detailed and dedicated the staff are, and also the knowledge base that it takes to run these systems, the light bulb goes on. And they say, we need to make sure the research is protected, the student experience is protected in the dorms, athletics are not affected, and you have the key staff behind the scenes who have that knowledge base to do that. Apprenticeship program then was a home run. And it's a great partnership.
How many tours did you do of the tunnels?
We continue doing tours of the tunnels on a routine basis. We're taking students through there. We just recently had an opportunity to take our student government through there. And as they're graduating students, they said, it's the best thing I've ever done in school here over the last 4 or 5 years. I'm sure their studies were all great, but they love going through the tunnels, but it gave them appreciation of what it takes to run the university. We partnered with our athletic department, and they said, we want to take our incoming athletes through your utility systems, what you've talked about, the tunnels, because it gives them the appreciation that not just scholarships that they get, but there's other staff members making that experience wonderful for them so they can be successful. Again, you need that knowledge base, and the apprenticeship program is spot on.
So as we started the planning of this program, we looked at what are the key milestones, what are the big, we have to get these done topics. There are state and federal requirements. We chose to register our program with the Department of Labor, so it's a registered apprenticeship program. At the completion of the apprenticeship program, they get their journey worker card that is state to state. They can be an electrician anywhere, so that's exciting. We look at what are the institutional requirements. So here on our campus, we just can't make up a job description. We have to get job descriptions approved through a few layers of people. And then what's compensation going to look like? How are we going to fund it? And then where are we going to find that educational component? We looked locally, we looked nationally. There's a group called NCCER that we looked at. We were successful in our search. We have a school here in town, Pima Community College, that actually has a great associate's degree program in the building construction technologies. And their administrator for that program was really excited to partner with us for this program.
You know, you bring up a great word, alliances. Alliances, collaboration, successfulness. We want to see the program to be successful down the road. And what would that look like? Well, a successful program is that we retain the majority of those students who are going through the apprenticeship over a 4-year period. Each year, they're required to get 2,000 hours of on-the-job training. We needed to make sure that we created an environment within our facilities management team that the one-team concept really fostered within the apprentice. A little story here, as we met with our new class just recently this week, and we meet with them on a routine basis. They're finishing their first semester. They come in green, inexperienced, not really knowing what they're getting into in August and September after doing a very detailed testing. And fast forward now over the next couple of months, and they're going to class together. They become friends. You can tell the synergy that's in the room just over a short period of time. Whether it's a controls, whether it's the electrician, whether it's a HVAC, you can tell the plant staff, you can tell that they become friends, and that's ultimately what we want. One of our mottos is we'd like to feel like this is a family business. We run it very effective and efficient, watch all our pennies, make sure our staff understands ultimately we're here for the students, the student experience, and to graduate the students. That's ultimately what all of us are here for. And we need to make sure our staff understands that. And when you could see these new apprentices over the last couple months really come together, I mean, it just makes your heart swell, because that's the key. It's a collaborative effort. But now when you back up, it's the collaborative effort with all those key decision makers and stakeholders. The Vice President of Human Resources that we had to meet with. And we had a conversation. We said, listen, we want to tie this into a contract, that if we're going to invest all this, we want to make sure that we don't lose them. And no, we can't do that. I said, well, we need to make sure then we create an environment that they wouldn't want to leave, that they enjoy that experience working at the university, working in the facilities management department. We went out and we reached with our legal department, our affirmative action, and this is way upstream. Jenna, can you discuss that? What did we do there, and why was that so important?
We took that apprenticeship program plan around and met with the key stakeholders of each of the departments that you see up on the screen. First, internally, we created an apprenticeship committee, and those were the supervisors and leads of the shops that we needed. And that was critical because they need to be invested in the success of the apprentices. They need to own the program. They need to feel like all of the decisions leading up to getting the apprentice were good decisions, and they really need to be part of that process. So we meet regularly with our apprenticeship committee. We had to figure out who was going to pay for that, and who do we need to meet with for that. Spent a lot of time meeting with different components of legal and HR. So the Division of Human Resources, we met with the Assistant Vice President of the Division of HR and really made the case. And from a recruiting and retention, you talk to an HR professional about the skills gap, and they nod and they get it, and they see it in other industry as well, and they say, yes, how can I help? And they're really appreciative that you included them, that they get to be part of the team. And in fact, funny story, we ended up going for a local Tucson Workplace Excellence Award in the same category as the Division of HR the year that we stood up our apprenticeship program. Ours was for the apprenticeship program. Theirs was for another program that they implemented here on campus. And we won, and they felt included in that win because they were included in the program plan. So that was pretty exciting. We met with the Office of Institutional Equity. There's language in the standards of apprentice that they really need to sign off on. So your affirmative action statement, your inclusion statement. We included the Office of General Counsel. This is a legal document. Who's going to sign it? And it was really fun to get all of these people on board. I was sitting in a meeting once where one of the people who maybe wasn't so excited about perhaps the work that was going to have to be created to get this done, said, well, it's going to take maybe 1 to 2 years to get that document created. And our attorney from the Office of General Counsel was really excited about this program and really excited to be part of the team. And he said, no, it's going to take a month. So making those alliances and letting people feel like they're a part of the process was critical, really, to the success of our program.
And you know, you can't emphasize that enough. We have a lot of great folks working at our universities, but you got to get the key person who's going to be assisting you so you can be successful in establishing the program. It's a major need that all of us are facing. You build those alliances, and then you move it forward.
Yeah. So we looked internally. We weren't afraid to ask questions because we didn't know what we didn't know. And the Department of Labor, as intimidating as the Office of Apprenticeship or reaching out seemed, they are so welcoming, so excited to help you build the program. So I have great connections into our apprenticeship office, both locally and nationally. We talk to other companies here in town who have apprenticeship programs. Some of them, we talked to electrical companies who knew that we were setting up competitive apprenticeship programs to theirs. And they're still very willing to share lessons learned, because ultimately we're all helping build our future trade workforce, which is very important to our local economy.
And I think that's a great point, because we have reached out to our mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors. We looked to see how they were doing items here. We're not trying to compete. They have their staff that they're grooming also, and that just benefits all of us, because we all, whether you're an in-house operation, whether we're dealing with our business partners, we're all going through the same thing. We have a huge gap of employees that we're losing, and how do we make sure we transfer that knowledge? And the apprenticeship program is outstanding. APA has a major military initiative that's going on right now. We discussed it in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. We have a number of folks that are working very hard on this, as we have a number of military members who are leaving the military, and there will be a great opportunity for apprenticeship programs and bringing them into our universities and colleges. I know we're moving along here, so we still have a lot of items to go. We have a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to mix some questions in as we move forward over the next 20 minutes or so. One of the questions was, is this a union environment? And the fact is, when I was at the University of Michigan, that was a union environment. Here in the Southwest, in Arizona, it's a right-to-work state. It's not a union environment, but the template that we will have, and this PowerPoint presentation, like the other ones, will be on APA's webpage, along with the questions, and an audio of it will be available in about a week. It's still the foundation, and it's a matter of partnering, reaching with your union reps, the benefit. That benefits the unions, it benefits the universities, it benefits the employees. And so it's really just selling the program as a whole. So we'll keep on moving on.
The other alliances that we made were within the local community. Chris and I went out and met with all of the high schools that had trade programs, and we talked with job relocation services, and we looked at military transition centers, and all of those were really good to help establish that pipeline for candidates. It's interesting, the initial class, we didn't have a lot of the high school. We had some high school applicants. I don't think they were ready to embrace the program yet. At the second go-round, we had a lot more of the kids who heard about it the first time, and now they're applying to the program. So it took some time, and these all of these alliances do take time to build those relationships, but they pay off.
I think the key point too is working with our compensation folks, our human resources. We looked and we created a temporary position, and like a lot of our universities, you can create a temporary, extended temporary position, in some cases for 23 months. We were able to go ahead and waive that requirement or that guideline and have a temporary position. Each of our apprentices are in an apprenticeship period for a 4-year period, with compensation increasing after they successfully have completed year 1 of the apprentice. We then increase the salary once they've achieved all their hours and have successfully completed their classwork. And it's a 4-year program. We had one gentleman, when we looked at the diversity of the group that came in our class of 12 for the first apprentice, he was already an employee who had worked here for over 10 years. And I said, why are you quitting a permanent position in another department and coming into a temporary? He goes, I want a career. I don't want just a job. I want a career that I can learn and it will benefit me and my family. And recently he's graduated from the program as a journeyman.
So once we had the plan, then we created the roadmap. I remember the day that Chris told me, this has been approved. Let's get this done and post it in May. We had 7 weeks. The name of the spreadsheet you're about to see soon was called 7 weeks, and the name kept changing. But we had done our research, and we knew what the roadmap was going to look like. We had to come up with budget. We had to come up with what documents need to be developed. And there's a list on the slide that shows all of the many documents. We had already formulated the committee, so we gave some committee assignments. What's the training plan going to look like? That sounds really tough. That sounds ominous or overwhelming. That was a quick phone call to the Department of Labor to say, talk to me about training programs, and they sent me a template. It was that easy. It was really easy.
You mean you didn't have to create it?
It's already created. Easy.
But that's what we're talking about, harnessing and transferring knowledge. Information is out there. We got to pull it together and share it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then, who are our mentors going to be? Because let's be honest, we've got fantastic workers, but not everyone is going to be a fantastic teacher. So we asked our apprenticeship program, our apprenticeship committee, to kind of tap the shoulders of those that we thought, not only are you skilled, but you want to invest in the future of someone else. And we found those mentors as well. And
that committee is so important. Not only are you concentrating on the foundation with the key stakeholders throughout the facilities department, but within the committee of the supervisor electric shop, the leads, plumbing shop, HVAC. We needed to make sure we had the buy-in, critical, that we have the buy-in up front, because they would be scheduling the work, dealing with the problems. It's true coaches. If it's a football team, a basketball team, any sports team, or if you're in the arts and you're in the plays, you need those who are going to be the coaches and the mentors to make sure those who are getting the training are going to be successful, because that's the future of our departments. And so our supervisors, leads who would meet routinely, they played just a huge role in making sure the personality of the apprentice was teamed with the right person in their shop so we could transfer that information.
The next item on the roadmap was communication. How are we going to get the word out? And like I said, it was 7 weeks, but we had spent 2 years creating those alliances and those partnerships. So we already had those channels to communicate in. How are we talking to facilities management? That's huge, because our #1 recruiting source was FM. We hired employees, we hired children, we hired nieces, nephews, and neighbors. So how you build this within your staff is critical to their success. And that was exciting to me to see custodial area supervisors or custodians or groundskeepers really rooting for the success of the plumbing apprentice that is a friend of their neighbor's friend or something. It was pretty neat. All of facilities management felt part of this process. Campus communication, and then communication to the local community. We had already defined what our selection process was going to be, and we had already researched aptitude testing to make sure that the tests that we picked would be compliant with human resources and labor law rules.
And I think that's a key point in terms of, as we have about 8 slides left over the next 10 minutes, but the aptitude is critical, that you need to, and if we could look back a little bit, as you're doing the test, make sure the aptitude, those who you're selecting, have a strong desire to go in that respective field. Our last go around, the second class that we had some students who were in there, but they were going for the apprenticeship program, but they didn't totally have a passion for what they were going for. We want to make sure they have a passion for that trade, and they will be very successful. Record keeping is critical too. Can you comment on that, Jenna?
Well, there are requirements within your local university for record keeping. There are requirements within the Department of Labor for record keeping. There's some documentation that has to be held, the official apprenticeship agreement, who signs off on the standards of apprentice. So there is some due diligence there.
You know, we were talking about compensation as we looked at this. And one of the questions that has come in is, did we have tiers in our compensation program?
Yes. So depending on where you are in the United States and how you're structured, you may have to follow Davis-Bacon law, which is a compensation rule. We didn't, but we gradually increased similar to that. We had steps per year that were a percentage of our overall journey worker rate, so that when they graduated, they were at that entrance journey worker rate that we could increase them to. Now,
the question also came, though, because you have different trades. You have electricians, you have HVAC, you have plumbers. And as you do a market analysis, you're going to find some variances in those. The apprentice, though, were they all brought in at the same and gradually increased to the same level?
They were. Within the 3 trades that we started with, the final salaries were similar enough that we stayed with that. That may change as we grow this class, because we do have a few trades that their final compensation based on market compensation is going to be more, but they've all started at the same base level.
We want to be uniformed with the class, so we had a true partnership with the students who are going through it, but also we have that market analysis of the respective trade shops. And as we continue looking at the market, wanting to retain the staff at the end, we don't want to invest in them and then have them leave. We then are also looking at their overall salaries and saying, how do we make sure that they're getting within the market of that respective trade?
Mm-hmm. And something you just said reminded me, I wanted to make a point earlier. When we originally planned this, Chris mentioned we were going to do 1 class every 2 years, but that class synergy that we saw happen with that first class of 12, that family unit that they created, we realized if we brought in another group of 12 after 2 years, we could potentially dilute that, and we really didn't want to, because that was critical of getting them deeply rooted within our organization, so that when maybe a higher job offer later down the road as they graduated came in, they would say, nope, I want to stay here. I am rooted within this organization, and this is where I belong. So that was a key point that you made that I wanted to kind of expand.
We've kept many opportunities on a monthly basis, monthly now, 12 months, 4 years. We met every month with the apprentice, and one of the major purposes were coaches and mentors, that if they were having any challenges, everybody goes through life, the challenges of personal and also professional, we could feel the vibe. If there was something wrong, we'd hold the apprentice, the student over and say, how can we help you be successful? By doing that, that also allows us to retain staff.
We knew when they broke up with girlfriends. We knew when they were up late with newborns. I mean, fun stuff.
We tried not to get too personal, but we sure.
But they shared that.
They did, and we tried to coach them. That's exactly what we were doing there. Well, one of the folks, Ann, thanks for giving us a question here. One of the questions came, though, and it goes back to a previous slide that we have. How did we determine, again, which ones we needed? And as we've talked in the past, we did that 10-year analysis of those key trade shops that would be leaving based on a point system, a retirement point system, could leave, and then we used that as our roadmap in establishing what type of trades did we need to get into the apprenticeship program. This go around, we're losing a huge number of our plant operators. And as we all know, running our plants is a fine skill. The boilers, the chillers, the turbines, the steam, you have to understand how to run those very efficiently. And then you mix in the computer technology nowadays on running those. We needed to make sure that was key as we're losing a large group. HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, we continue losing a large number over the next 10 years.
We also, when we made the decision, we went to the apprenticeship committee and felt strongly about the mentors that we had in each of those 3 areas. We had people who came through apprenticeship programs themselves and were confident in their ability to lead someone through the process. And we also selected that because those were very strong classes at the school that we had chosen, and we wanted to make sure that we had strength in those, since we knew this was a new program and we may run into kind of speed bumps that we didn't expect. We wanted strength in teachers and in coursework, both on the job and off the job. So,
you know, we got a great question that comes in. Did we have any pushback by the trades? And as Jenna mentioned, way upstream, we brought the entire facilities management department into the process. We used it as a great marketing opportunity, saying this is a challenge we are going to have as a team. This is how we're thinking we can address it, and it will give you opportunities. However, there's going to be a detailed training program, a detailed testing program that needs to be done, and then also it could give opportunities for your son or daughter or friend. And so the trades bought into it fully. As I've said too, you got to make sure we have great employees. Make sure you partner them with the one who will transfer and share that information. And what we found too, as James Parker has done, they turn into a flower that blooms. They appreciate the ability of working at a university for decades and not just retiring, but being able to pass along their knowledge before they leave. It gave them really a sense of accomplishment.
So on the next couple slides, what you'll see is that roadmap that we talked about, but with more action items. So we can go through this pretty quickly. These will be posted on the website so that you can see, and we can get to a couple of those questions. But what are those key milestones? Who do you make those alliances with? I think I skipped one.
Yep. And as we go through this, one of the questions that came up too is the ratio, and the ratio of apprentice to journeyman. Our department has 600 employees. Our maintenance and utilities group is probably about 250, 260. Out of our first class, we had 9 that officially graduated. We currently have 11 in our new program. And so it's not a huge number of apprentices, and that goes back to what we've said. We wanted a nice mix of newer staff who are coming in through the apprenticeship program, and also you have those who are already journeymen, ability to transfer that knowledge to the newer folks coming in.
So, and as I look at this checklist, I love lists. So this was am I getting everything done? And maybe it's beneficial to you, my team. I can't take full credit for it. But what are all the documents that we need? And some of these we didn't, some of these we did, but we put everything we could think of down while we ate salad the day that you told us we had to get this done. What does educational coursework look like? Are we going to do it ourselves? Or are we going to pass it over to our community college, which we decided. But then we wanted to make sure those instructors were good instructors. And in fact, a couple years back, we even encouraged one of our own staff to moonlight at the community college as one of the instructors because he had a great aptitude there. So this apprenticeship class, they're being taught by one of our facilities management people at the community college. So that's exciting. And then here's kind of a better breakdown on the communication plan, different ideas about how to communicate internally.
If I could back up just for one sec, Jenna, that educational piece, I can't emphasize enough, and again, we're going through these remaining slides rather fast in the last few minutes, and we're adding in questions as we're going along. The educational component of a solid apprenticeship program is critical. The testing has to take place. If I look back at one, we weren't involved with it, but we did some analysis where it wasn't successful, the testing wasn't done. The testing has to be done, the aptitude test. That testing was on math, it was on reading, writing, aptitude. It is critical for the success of the student, the apprentice, and quite frankly, the success of that person down the road when he graduates, he or she.
And the other thing that I'll add, similar along that thread of thought, one of the things we spoke about with the apprenticeship committee was we had to have the ability to fail, and that would be okay. So all along, we were checking in with our apprentices and checking in with our apprenticeship committee, because you could do all of the best recruiting, and maybe someone still a year or two, you realize they're just not going to succeed. And we built that into the program so that even mentors, supervisors, leads could come to us and say, this was not working out. And that wasn't going to be a failure for the apprenticeship program. That would be a success. A failure would be to graduate someone who wasn't ready into a job that the team didn't want to support them in. So we built that in.
Now, where we did not allow failure to take place was the mentors.
Correct.
And so how were those mentors selected? We had a number of conversations with the shop supervisors, those in charge of our maintenance shops, make sure they were handpicking the proper mentorship, and then that was monitored on a routine basis. As far as the program as itself, the U of A, our facilities management department, we put the foundation together, and then we partnered with a local community college, Pima Community College. They have almost an associate program in building trades, building construction, and that covered the gamut from HVAC to plumbing to electrical, safety training, blueprints, reading, and so we made sure that program was going to meet our needs. And so that's a great opportunity for our universities and colleges, partner with our community colleges in establishing an apprenticeship program. We've had these conversations with other universities that also have community colleges, and again, that's the alliance and the partnership that goes on.
Okay, so I just flew through a couple slides, but they'll be available to you because I want to make sure we hit on the end. I think one of the successes of the program, as Chris has mentioned, is regular checkups, regular checking in with the apprentices. Invest the time in retention. We had talked about, can we have them sign a contract that if they leave, they have to pay us back for the education piece? And we decided no, but we will take the time to get them deeply rooted within our organization so it's difficult to leave. We have open communication. I am learning as well, so there were times in the apprenticeship program, the first 4 years, where an apprentice would come in and say, what about this? I would say, I'll have to get back to you, but thank you for bringing it up. And then we reported a lot on our success, the success of our apprentices, departmental alliances, and the community. And here is a picture of several of our graduates at one of our graduation ceremonies that we did for them. And a follow-up picture, we had a ceremony where we invited their families and their mentors, and that was really neat too. So Chris had asked that not only do they invite their family members to the graduation ceremony, but if they had a mentor that really stood out, invite them. And then the mentor and the apprentice stood up to accept the certificate. And then the apprentice got to praise the mentor, and the mentor got to praise the apprentice, and it was really cool.
Well, I'll tell you, we could keep going on this topic. As I can see by the questions that keep coming in, I apologize we couldn't answer them all. We're going to try to answer them, put them on the APA webpage, but the fact is we're out of time. And we could go on for another half hour, I'm sure. And if you're interested, we're looking at taking this in true harnessing and transferring the knowledge to the APA Institute in Portland, Oregon. There will be an elective class now just on establishing apprenticeship program. So if you're sending in your staff or yourself, feel free to attend that. That will be this January, establishing apprenticeship program. But Jenna, I want to just thank you very much for your help in establishing the program. Any final quick words?
No, I think we covered it. Absolutely, feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
So as we wrap this up, I appreciate very much. We had several hundred folks who have been on the line here. Again, it's APA's way of giving back to our members. The number one item that you ask, give us stuff that is useful that we can take back to our universities. Great questions. It's an honor as your APA president to be able to transfer and share information. I appreciate very much my staff at the University of Arizona. Very proud of our apprentice. Our second class is just very, very impressive. Next month, we'll be looking at January 25th, Arizona time at noon. January 25th at noon. We have several topics that we're looking at right now, from harnessing big data to students for sustainability and student engagement. That's going to be a very cool one. We're going to have several students at the University of Arizona and throughout. As we work on internship programs, student engagements, we're going to have a presentation on that too, because ultimately that's why we're here for the students. We appreciate our business partners. We'll be partnering with others over the next year. With that said, I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season. Enjoy your time with your family and your friends. We look forward to seeing everybody in the future. Thank you very much for attending. And Jenna, thank you very much also.